welcome to Served Up. This podcast is where hospitality meets leadership and where we take an honest look at the business of beverage. I'm Bridget Albert. I've spent my career building cocktail programs, mentoring rising talent, judging competitions, and advocating for women in our industry. I'm joined by my co-host, Eric Heemer, one of only 5 people in the world to hold both the Master Sommelier and Master of Wine titles. His depth of knowledge and global perspective brings tremendous insight to every conversation. This is Served Up.
Welcome to Served Up. Our guest today is Scotty Palmer, founder of Palmer's Strategic Advisors. Scotty is a licensed CPA and a fractional CFO, working with businesses to help them stop bleeding money and build the financial foundation they need to be profitable. With a background in corporate finance, Scotty saw an opportunity, realizing the need for expert advisors to help small businesses right the financial ship, and started his company. Today, Scotty deploys his proprietary shelf-to-savings system, a 5-layer financial framework examining cost of goods, overhead, working capital, pricing, and growth friction to uncover hidden margin and build sustainable cash flow for his clients. Now, please relax and enjoy the show. Thank you. Scotty, welcome to Served Up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
We're really excited to talk to you. But before we dive into our primary topic, we'd love to learn a little bit about you, where you're from, what you like to do in your spare time. And I understand that you have rambunctious, not quite 2-year-old twin boys. So tell me what that's like.
Yeah, well, I live in Georgia, originally from upstate New York. But yes, I'm married to my wife almost 4 years now, I believe. Maybe 4 or 5. I should probably think about that. But my wife might kill me when she hears this. But we do.
Either way, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Our boys, they're identical twin boys. They actually turned 2 on Sunday. So we're a week away from 2. So we're in that terrible 2 stage. But it's awesome. Yeah, being a dad's great. So, and that's why I do what I do. And started this firm for them, really.
Oh, wonderful. What are their names?
It's Lawson and Tatum.
Lawson and Tatum. Wonderful. I love creative names. Those are great. We've got plenty of Tom, Dicks, and Harrys out there. Good to have a few Lawsons and Tatums as well.
Right.
That's great.
I'm the second. So the plan was always to have the firstborn son be a third, but when you have twin boys, who do you choose gets the name.
Yeah,
so
good stuff.
So we opted out of that. And I think my wife was a little more happy about that underneath than she says. But actually, Tatum's middle name is Scott. So it was kind of the trade-off.
Oh, there you go. Great. And I understand you're moving to Charlotte soon as well.
Yeah, that's right. We're moving to Charlotte in September. So it's always been what we were going to do. We've been talking about moving to Charlotte before we got married. So 5-6 years now. And last year, towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, we decided to sell our house and move. And the plan was to go to Charlotte. But my wife had other plans for a little while. So we actually moved to Florida for like 6 months in the Sarasota area. And Florida is just not for us. A beautiful place to visit. Love going to see family there. But actually living there during the summertime is just brutal.
Yeah, you just have to embrace the heat. Embrace the humidity.
Right.
Nothing you can do about it, so you might as well embrace it.
Absolutely.
I'm based in Miami, and I've been here for 51 years now, and I've just gotten used to it. It's just sort of goes with the territory. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you, and let's talk about your business. So the idea for your business took root, I understand, when a family friend consulted you for financial advice. Tell us the story.
Yeah, so I think just like everyone else, I started my first job ever was in a pizza place, like most people in restaurants or whatnot. But I was actually 15 at the time. So you can work at 15 here in Georgia. It's allowed. So I worked part-time at a pizza place. And then just through high school and then into college, worked at different restaurants, became a restaurant manager at one point while I was in college. And then when I graduated, got my accounting degree, I went into audit. So started doing public audits and then kind of went after that into industry, private companies, worked for a very large logistics company. So really got to understand logistics and supply chain. And then actually finished my corporate career which I say that like I've been doing this for 30 years, but finished my corporate career working for the Honey Baked Ham Company. They're based here in Metro Atlanta. And so got a little bit of the food manufacturing side. So kind of a full circle moment there. But while I was at Honey Baked Ham, I had a family friend. They've had a mold and water restoration company for, I think, 25, 30 years. And, they came to me and they were like, Scotty, we've been doing this forever. And, we know the model works. We know the business works. People that have worked for us, we've mentored them. They've gone off to start their own thing and follow what we do, but they're doing 30, 40, $50 million a year now. And here we are still stuck at $3-4 million a year. And we just don't understand why. So we know you're a CPA. We know you understand numbers and everything you do in the corporate world. Like, if we pay you, will you help us just understand like where we're bleeding money, why we're not profitable, why we can't grow? And that's really where it started. So started working with them and I really enjoyed it. And it was way more fun, no offense to Honey Baked, but going to a corporate office every day, like being able to help a local community business actually survive and continue to grow and expand into new territories was really fun for me. So I was like, I have to figure, I really love doing this. I got to figure out how to, like, what am I doing and how can I make this into a business? Because I really enjoy it. And then going back to kind of where I've been and like cutting my teeth in the food and beverage industry. So I've niched down there. But it's a funny story because, like I said, with my twins, it was maybe a few weeks after they were born, I had that conversation with my wife at dinner. It was like, I think I can do, like, I want to start really going like full time at this. At this point, I had like maybe 2 or 3 clients at that point. And I told her I wanted to just quit my job with a nice 6-figure salary and great benefits and do this full time. And she took a few seconds and then looked at me and she went, okay,
Wow.
that works. And the rest is history. Here I am now.
I was 99% sure it was going to go the other direction.
Right. Yeah. Most people's wives would be like, what are you talking about? We just had twins. Like, did you see our hospital bill and you want to leave your job and
give up a regular paycheck and all that? Right. Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, it's so gratifying to have that support at home and knowing that you're both in it together and you've got her whole, support behind you. So congratulations. And obviously it's paid off because your business is successful and you still look really happy. So that's a great thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been great so far. I mean, having her support is definitely really what's gotten it to this point. So, I mean, there's obviously behind the scenes, just like most businesses, there's good days and bad days. And, and so, she's always there to kind of help me along the way and kind of supporting me in all the things I do.
So for those people out there in the audience that might have a similar dream of leaving their corporate identity and going off on their own, what were some of the pitfalls that you encountered starting your own new business? Anything that you would advise people against?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that it was like I had enough clients before I truly left. So at the few clients that I had was substantial enough for me to like almost be making up for the salary that I was losing. So but I would say, honestly, just kind of go for it. I don't think there's really a good time or a best time. I mean, I did it probably at the worst possible time in like big life events that were going on to take the chance and do it. And it's paid off. So
that's good. That's good advice. I think sometimes you just have to follow your gut, follow the dream and see what happens. So I'm curious about this story. I've heard about this brewery distillery in Maryland that you were working with that were really struggling financially, and you were able to help them identify over $500,000 in recoverable profit. That's pretty exciting. Can you share some of that story? What was the outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, local micro distillery brewery that reached out to me, and they had soared during the period during the COVID era. Like most alcohol brands, I think at that time, because of how high alcohol consumption was up. And, they grew to a $10 million business and then fast forward 4 years to where we are now. And they're only doing $2.5 million. So they lost 75% of their business in a 4-year period and just really couldn't understand why. And so they reached out to me. I met with them and I performed something I call a financial pressure test, where I kind of peel back the business through a 5-layer process or system that I call the shelf to savings system. and just kind of peeled it back like an onion, just pulled the layers back to see where the business was losing money and profitability and where they were just bleeding cash. And through that, we were able to uncover some areas where they were just leaving money on the table that was already in their business, more specifically around just right sizing their business to where they were now. So, they were operating their business like they were still a $10 million business because they just really couldn't let go of the idea that their business was a $10 million business instead of a $2.5 million business is what it is now.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people went through that reality check as we came out of COVID and the industry sort of returned to normal. And there's a lot of competition out there too. There's so many microbreweries now around the country. It's getting tougher and tougher to be profitable and to compete with so many different businesses in the same waters, so to speak. So I'm glad that you were able to help them recover some of that money and realize that they have to get back to reality.
Right. Yeah. And, you have, especially in the alcohol industry, I mean, consumption is way down. And then, like you were saying, kind of the fierce competitiveness, especially of smaller breweries that aren't, competing with Anheuser-Busch and these large companies. There's a lot of them and they pop up all over the place. So the competition is fierce. And so you really have to have that competitive advantage in the industry if you want to survive there. But particularly this brewery, we've been working together for almost 6 months now, and we're on track by the end of the year that they're actually going to be a little break even on profit in the green and positive versus the last couple of years of being negative half or $1 million in profit. And they're going to have about 6 to 8 months of a cash runway. So that's a big win.
Yeah, congratulations on that. So when you're looking at peeling away the layers of the onion, so to speak, what's one of the biggest pain points that you've discovered for your clients? Where is it that they're spending money that they really shouldn't be?
That's a really good question. So most of the brands that I work with, they're usually in that like $1 million to $20 million in revenue range. So I think as smaller businesses, they tend to not know or not feel that they have the power to negotiate with vendors. And so like I have a client now, and during their onboarding, we were asking about like supplier contracts, like, let me review them, let me take a look. And they kind of just looked at me during our call and were like, what do you mean? Like, whenever we need materials, like we just order it online from them and like, that's it. They send us an invoice. And, they were almost a $10 million company at that point. I'm like, or a $12 million company at that point. And I was like, okay, we need to solidify some contracts, some rate contracts with these vendors, because you guys have the capacity and capability to be able to put your rates, set in stone in contracts with, typical reviews, quarterly, semi-annually, right? But at least that way we have the ability to be able to then forecast cash a lot better, forecast, what our costs are going to be a lot better, so that we're not just guessing and you're at the mercy of maybe 1-2 suppliers at best of whatever their price is what we pay. So we went and sourced some other suppliers and vendors, and also got rates set in some vendor contracts, so that we weren't just guessing and we knew exactly what the next 6 to 8 months really held for them.
That's very interesting. So why do businesses often look profitable on paper when they're really broke in real life? And I'm sure that's fairly common with some of your clients.
Yeah, this is probably the most common issue I see with folks, is really just not understanding that profit doesn't equal cash. So there are so many movements of cash in your business that don't show up on your P&L. So yeah, I had another client at the end of last year came to me, and I know these all sound like, terrible stories, people in distress, and they do have great growth stories too of people that aren't in distress. But this particular client came and he was like, we're profitable, we're 6 figures in profit every single year, but I never have any money, and I don't understand why I don't have any cash at the bank. And that was true. Looking at he was profitable almost $200,000 last year, but he finished 2025 with $748 in his bank account.
Wow.
Right. And so once I started to uncover, okay, where are the outflows and inflows of the cash coming in and going out? And a lot of what was going out, single income household, this was their only source of income was the business. And it was a family of 8. So the husband and wife, and they had 6 kids that all still lived at home with them. So there was a certain level of a certain amount of cash he needed to take out of the business every month, just for living expenses in their life. And then once we factored that in, some debt payments, we got to where his bank account was today. And so walking him through, just having him understand, how cash affects the business but doesn't show up in the P&L. That's honestly, I think, a super misconception that most brands that I work with have.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I think we all know horror stories where successful restaurants decided they wanted to expand their current location or branch out and have a second location and ended up failing miserably. What are some of the unexpected costs of scaling up, and how can that growth create financial chaos?
I think as you grow, like typically if you don't have a good financial foundation in your business, it's just like anything else. Like your problems just get bigger. They don't go away. So as you continue to scale and the business grows, that problem grows. So if you don't understand where your business is leaking cash to begin with, and then you 2x your business, well, now your cash leak is twice the size, right? So a common one that I see with businesses is kind of going back to that vendor contract, vendor rates. I had a particular client, logistics kind of food distributor, and he like almost 5x'd his business over a couple of years, from a couple of million to almost 20 million. And when we started looking at the contracts that he had, I was like, oh my goodness, like you guys are still being billed by 3PLs which is third party logistics, for rates when you were a $2 million, $3 million company. But now you're an almost $20 million company and you're paying the same rates. Like no one ever looked back at this. You guys never had this conversation of, hey, who's, but they were never looking at that. So kind of the same situation. They were just getting invoices and they were just paying them. So they actually retroactively got a credit back for those couple of years that they had outgrown that tier of rate, which was a few $100,000. I believe it was almost like $600,000 or $700,000 that they got back in a retroactive credit, which was huge for them. So
yeah, that's amazing. So basically, it's just paying attention to what you're paying and renegotiating agreed upon pricing. And it's just always, you just really have to keep looking at that bottom line as a business owner and saying, hey, I've tripled my business here. I should be getting a discount on shipping or, bulk purchases, that sort of thing. So it's just really minding the P's and Q's of your accounting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of the struggle that these business owners have, especially in that range of $1 million to 20 million, and that's why I really like helping and supporting those businesses, is because the owners are wearing so many hats, right? Like they're wearing the CEO hat, the COO hat, the HR hat, and so a lot of these things just tend to slip through the cracks just because they don't have time to be able to sit down and go, okay, let's go review our contracts and make sure we're being billed correctly, which you should, but they just don't think about it. It's probably on their list of 1,000 things to do. It's pretty close to the bottom. And I think that that's where what I do really comes into play, is being able to take that responsibility off their plate and go do it, right? And then come back to them with the results and be that extension of their financial leadership to be able to help them spot those things.
Yeah, that's great. Better give Scotty a call.
That's right.
So how does a business owner go about learning SKU level profitability? How do you determine which products are secretly losing you money? Seems like a vexing problem.
It is. I think it just comes back to a little bit about what I was just saying. It's just having that type of insight into your financials and into what your costs are, being able to track those and actually seeing what that is. So the brewery client that I have, another thing that we worked on with them was actually getting things down to a SKU level of seeing what's profitable and what's not. Because what we were looking at before is just a blended rate. And a lot of businesses just look at it like that, like, oh, this is our gross margin. Here it is, right? But that's a blended rate amongst all of your SKUs. But when you actually break that down individually by every SKU you have, now we get to see, okay, this product over here has, a 70% gross margin. This one over here has a 35% margin. And one of the things we uncovered with the brewery client I have is that their best seller was actually not their most profitable product. So they spent all of their marketing and advertisement spend was on that particular SKU because it's their best seller. It's the thing that makes them the most money, or at least they thought. So what we did is we allocated about 50% of their marketing budget to their most profitable SKU, which just happened to be vodka. So, so taking it off of an aged whiskey and putting it onto the vodka, and their sales on the vodka soared about 350% just by that additional marketing spend that they had. And that makes them 20, 30 cents more on the dollar than their best seller.
That's not surprising, actually. For those of you in the audience, too, that are wondering what a SKU is, or SKU, it's stock keeping unit, which is just a term that we use in the industry. So SKU or SKU means the same thing. This is probably one of the biggest issues that we all encounter. And I know, being in the wine and spirits industry and working with restaurants, I think the number is 80% of restaurants fail within 2 years or something like that. But your figure here is 60% of small businesses fail by year 5, so they don't even reach 5 years. What's the real reason behind this, Scotty?
Yeah, there's a lot. I could be here all day.
I'm sure there's more than one, but give us some of the biggest reasons here. That's just sort of a bullet point list of why they don't reach year 5.
Yeah, I think it's something you brought up was businesses being profitable on paper, but never having any money. We all know the saying, cash is king. And if you don't have cash, you don't have a business, right? Because you can't pay for anything. So if you don't have money, you can't pay your employees, you can't pay vendors, you can't even pay yourself. And then after that, you don't have a business. And the 60% is that's a blended across all businesses. And that's a Department of Labor statistics. So, and that goes back again to why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think, and you know from your experience in the food and beverage industry too, specifically spirits, businesses come and go very fast. I mean, you go to a liquor store, you go to a grocery store, you walk down an aisle, let's just say condiments, right? Like how many different brands of all these different types of condiments are there? And you probably maybe only know 1 or 2, maybe 3, like the big hitters in the industry. And it is cutthroat, and businesses, especially in food and beverage, do not survive very long. And the ones who do, they plan ahead. They get wonderful people like me to come work with them to help them get through those troughs, and then also those great periods of growth too. I mean, we've seen businesses recently that have sold for hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, like Brew, the vitamin supplement, or a company like Poppy, that from zero to nothing within 3 to 4 years, they're selling to big companies for $400 million, $1.2 billion. And you don't get there just from throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So we've sort of touched upon this topic already, and I know that there's various reasons behind this. But what are the most common places that hidden margin gets left on the table? I know part of it's renegotiating contracts and paying attention to volume purchases and that sort of thing. But what else is there that people are overlooking?
Another one I will say too is in people's overhead expenses. So those are things like payroll, marketing costs, advertising, software costs. Another pain point for this brewery distillery client that I have, kind of reviewing their software costs. It was astonishing to me looking at, why does this $2.5 million brewery have $50,000 plus of software costs? Like, what is going on? Dues, subscriptions, like what is going on here? And then, you start to uncover all of these places where there's duplicate efforts happening in their particular instance, just duplicate subscriptions, duplicate softwares that have the same capability as each other that overlap, but they think that they have to have both of them independently. I think too, inside of overhead, the biggest expense that a lot of food and beverage companies have is payroll. So I think another great thing to do is actually track your employees' salaries back to their revenue source. So this is something that I do with my clients, is actually tracking, okay, this employee performs, maybe they're in production. So they're actually producing the whiskey or they're producing the snack bar, right? And so what is their salaries cost? How are we, what revenue are they generating? And what does that look like? Like, what is our head count to revenue? I think that's a big one a lot of people overlook. they tend to not even know that it's a thing to do. But on top of that, completely overlook it or maybe think it's too complicated, and it's really not. But it's something that can actually help you see, okay, for every person we have on staff and payroll, how much money are we making? Or what is that person generating in revenue for us? I think is a great way to have some insight to know if you're overstaffed or maybe even understaffed.
Good advice. Good advice. For brands that came out of COVID with an inflated cost structure, how do you go about right sizing without damaging operations? I know that's a big question, a lot of businesses had after the dark veil of COVID lifted from the landscape. But, costs went up. People were making a lot of money, but they were also being charged a lot of money too. So how do you fix that at the end of something that is going to end eventually, like COVID, that sort of thing?
So I think coming out of the COVID era with the high cost structure, and like you said, a lot of people were making money. And I think it's kind of normalized in a sense now. But again, it's planning, honestly. It's planning. It's being able to have the foresight kind of into the future, I guess, which is what we call forecasting. And that's I think one of the most powerful tools of things that I do with my clients is, it's one thing to, categorize all your transactions in your QuickBooks, right? But it's another thing to see where you've been, understand where you are today, and then actually have a roadmap going forward, whether that's 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, right? And seeing where you're going to go. And if that's a great place where you want to be, then we continue down that path. And if not, then we have to course correct and figure out where it is that we can make changes or even just capitalize on the opportunities that come to us.
Great advice. Great advice. Well, Scotty, thank you so much for appearing on Served Up. This has been a fascinating conversation. It's great to learn about you and your family and your business. You're providing a great, valuable service to businesses out there, both within the wine and spirits industry and without. So thanks for all you do and best of luck going forward. And I hope you enjoy your new home in Charlotte.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I appreciate it. And if that resonated with anybody, you can take a quick, less than 10 minutes. I promise it's fast, but I actually have a quiz that people can take to figure out where their business is leaking margin and cash. So if you go to palmersadvisors.com/cash, that's PALMERSADVISERS.com/cash. A quick 10-minute, 14-question quiz. You can see where cash and margin are leaking in your business.
Now, there you go. And you have it. Well, thank you again, Scotty.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of our future Served Up episodes. Cheers.